Hello. Hello. I can't hear you.
Hello,
Hello. I can hear you now.
how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
What's going on with your hair?
I've had it clipped up because it's hot, and I've just taken the
Ah.
clip out.
All right. So, how's the week been?
Fairly frantic actually. Had an all-day session yesterday at St Gemma's. Frantic in a good way. An all-day session at St Gemma's yesterday. In fact, I was just doing a bit of work then, some notes from it, and then I took Bodhi to the vet on, I don't know, Tuesday I think it was, or Wednesday. And the vet said the problem was he had fleas. So there's all that sorting out of that. It's a horrible situation when you find yourself you've got fleas.
Don't you pre-treat him?
Yes, but what the vet was saying was that anecdotally, a lot of people have been saying that the front line stuff doesn't work.
Huh.
So he gave me a tablet for Bodhi, or he gave Bodhi a tablet, which was £35.
Whoa.
Yeah. I suppose it's like antibiotics actually, that animals must get resistant
Yes,
to
absolutely.
things after a while.
Yeah.
I'd combed him on the Monday and there wasn't anything on him that I could find. And then I
Hmm.
combed him again on the Tuesday because he was still scratching, and
Hmm.
there were sort of little sores on his back legs as well, and on his hips. And then
Hmm.
I got two fleas off. But
Huh.
when I took him to the vet and
Hmm.
sort of lifted him up on his hind legs, the vet said he could see fleas on his stomach, which, you know, I was amazed at, because he's blonde, so you'd be able to see flea poo in his hair very easily.
Hmm.
Got pink skin, I couldn't see anything. But it's good that we've been. So tomorrow I'm going to let off flea bombs in the attic where Mr. Ambrose lives,
Hmm.
and then do my bedroom, Jane's bedroom, and the living room.
Hmm. I like the sound of flea bombs.
Yeah, they're like the old-fashioned Roman candles.
Okay.
They burn a lot of smoke.
Okay.
It's like when you're in a hot country and you do those mosquito rings.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, so that will help, I think.
So you'll presumably have to leave the room and close the
Oh
door
yeah, you
while the
do.
bomb's active.
Yeah, ideally you leave it overnight,
Mm.
but otherwise a minimum of 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so I felt guilty that the dog was suffering that he had
Oh.
fleas, and I hadn't picked it up. But
Mm.
like I say, I couldn't find anything, and I went through him with a flea comb.
Yeah. Well, they're usually pretty good. Flea
Yeah,
combs, they usually bring everything out.
yeah. But like I say, I just got two off him, and when I took him to the vet, he said he was infested. I don't think it was quite that bad, but there you go.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
so it's been busy with that, and then when I was at St Gemma's yesterday, I thought, right, we've just been talking about the appointment of the chief nurse at St Gemma's, and it's been
Mm.
handled by Gaten B Sanderson in Leeds, and so the people I'd been working with in Leeds are involved in that. So I thought, right, I'll just drop them a line, a catch-up
Mm.
contact. So I did it to everybody, and I'm having a conversation on Monday with somebody from Interim Partners on Monday in Harrogate.
Fantastic.
So hopefully that might or might not be something, or it might just be a contact call. Who knows? But it's worthwhile having. And I finished my application for Forget Me Not, so I've just got to go through that this morning with Jonathan, who read it yesterday, and then I'm going to send all that off. And my computer was playing up. I was trying to upload a CV, and when I uploaded the CV, it gave the address and access to the whole of, say, the desktop, which is where it was. So I got in a complete panic about that. But it turns out that actually all it's doing for the people on the other end is telling them where the documents come from. It doesn't mean to say that they can open the whole of my desktop. But I ended up having an interesting exchange of emails with the headhunter because I told her that I was having these technical problems, and she went. She sort of said, "Haha, I don't want access to your desktop. What's on there?" And I said, "Oh, just some nice pictures of dogs." So then we ended up talking about the fact that I had Cairn Terriers and they had a Cairn Terrier in Scotty Cross called Peanut.
Oh.
And they loved that dog. And she loves terriers, and of course, so that was quite nice actually.
So
An exchange.
BDFs.
It's sort of, yeah. Whether it will do any good, I don't know. But so even if I think I'll meet her, even if nothing happens with Forget Not Children's Hospice, I think I will still meet her.
Well, you know that she's going to think you're a good person just because you've got the same breed of dogs and just because you adore them and your logo's the dog. So she's going to think you're a great person. Yeah. So that's already a step ahead of perhaps lots of other candidates.
You can't shortlist me that, can you, just because you like dogs?
No, but it means that you'll be higher up in her brain, you know, more to the front of her brain, doesn't it? Yeah. So, and everything is helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything helps. So,
yeah.
And you're at the front of her brain for a good reason. So, you know, her anchor for you is something that she loves. So, all good.
Yeah. So it's been a busy week, but a good week.
Good.
Oh, and I found out yesterday, it was somebody I used to work with at Trafford Housing Trust is a LinkedIn contact.
Yeah.
And it was her birthday, so you know how they prompt you to say, do you want to say happy birthday?
Yeah.
Anyway, it turns out that Roger was made redundant in March, as was Mike Caulfield, who's the head of what was called Landlord, which is all the general lets. And they've got another interim in who's looking after independent living and Landlord, reporting into Angela Hunter, who so I was, and the thing that Fran, who's this person that I found this information out from, said was that Roger was really surprised. And today I'm going to reply, but my last conversation with him was saying the writing's on the wall. You need to pull your socks up. So obviously that went in one ear and out the other. But I don't know how the situation is there. They've got more consultants in as well.
More?
I think that's it doesn't surprise me actually, because Matthew always wants to get the answer he wants to hear.
Yeah.
But it kind of made me stop in my tracks thinking, well, how do I position this when I'm talking to people? Because it's a very small world, so people will hear.
Yeah.
So I haven't thought that through yet.
Well, there's no rush. You can think it through in your own time, can't you?
Yes, but I'm meeting somebody from Guinness Care Partnership on the 16th of July, and I decided that I wanted to get some direct CVs out there and make some direct contacts, which I'll start to do next week. So I just need to have my story straight, as it were.
Yes, absolutely. So you've got about a week in order for that, to get your story straight. Is that what you're saying? Maybe 5 days.
Well, ideally less than that, because I would like to get some CVs out next week or make some contacts next week.
But next week is 7 days. So where would you plan to start on Monday doing that?
Well, on Monday I'm at St Gemma's.
Again. Busy now.
And then actually there's something again on Friday afternoon at St Gemma's, so or in Leeds City Centre for St Gemma's. So I've got Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, so I want to do, even if it's just a couple of CVs, I just want to have that thought process thought through.
And do you actually need to think about it, or can you actually just know that that's what you want to have sorted and let your brain do the rest without you having to consciously intervene?
I think that the second thing that you mentioned, it just not that I'm exaggerating about anything in my CV or anything, but it just means that how I write about what I've done, maybe it's just a mindset shift that I have to make. Or maybe I don't have to make anything. I'm making something out of nothing. I've just found out this information that's relevant to me, but not to anybody else. I don't know.
Well, and that's a good point. You may find that, but the reason I was asking the question was often I find that if I set an intention, I want clarity on this, I then go away and do other things, knowing that my brain and my body will keep working on it, and I'll then suddenly get a thought that tells me I'm ready because that's the clarity that I wanted. Now I can go write this piece. So we don't always have to sit there and think things through and use our prefrontal cortex to prioritize, evaluate, and do all of that.
Yeah, and it's good to just when I heard about it yesterday, I was because I was right. I just contacted people that I'd been in touch with, like Sarah Stevenson. So Sarah Stevenson is from Interim Partners. She's the lady I saw in London who said, I can do something with you.
Oh yes.
Write me a case study. And she wanted a quote from Matthew.
Yeah.
And I haven't been in touch with her. But yesterday I got in touch and I just said, really good to meet you a couple of weeks ago. Wanted to make sure I stayed in touch. I was on your radar. Have you been to Manchester this week? It was the housing conference. And then I started writing about, I'd heard that there'd been big changes at Trafford Housing Trust. And I stopped. And then I deleted it. I thought, well, because I thought it's interesting to me, but it's not something that I need to tell you about.
Well done.
So you're right. It's just that processing through and me thinking about whether or not, if somebody asks me a question about it, how do I respond really? And I think that I'm already distilling that information because it was always the intention to remove Roger. The fact that he went was just actually the first part of what the review was about.
Yes.
So there's my answer.
There you go. It sounds as though you've had a very positive week, and you did look a bit frazzled when you started the session. But it sounds as though you've had a great week, that, you've taken all the opportunities that came your way and you responded really well to them all. I don't know if that's your impression. Yeah,
it is. And I went and I saw Peter read about the computer, got things sorted out there, which was that's always sends me into a tears. I don't know whether it's the same for you, but when something goes wrong either with the bank or with your computer, I don't know, panic sets in.
Yeah, my panic used to be completely unmanageable. I used to want to run away and hide. Now I grit my teeth and get on with it.
Yeah.
And because it pushes back my comfort zone there. So actually I find that it takes more and more to get me panicked. And that's been my whole aim. Push back your comfort zone here, because your comfort zone is so small you can't move. You've got no room to move. All you can do is panic, and that's not a healthy response. So now my mindset is good, another opportunity for me to create a bigger comfort zone and a much smaller discomfort zone, so that when I have these problems and these challenges, I have more of my prefrontal cortex, my modern brain, to come up with answers.
Well, I was quite proud of myself as well, because I knew that I thought I had this problem. But I immediately sorted out a solution with the headhunter, which is I could send it directly to her, and I sorted out seeing Peter Rudd. And I actually thought there's no point now worrying about this, because until you've seen Peter, there's nothing you can do.
Well done.
And you've got a solution anyway. You can send it direct, which I prefer to do. So I went. So it was fine.
So have you given yourself a treat or a recognition that you've done really well this week, that you've had challenges that you've overcome, and you've overcome them despite feeling a bit of panic at times? Have you given yourself that proverbial pat on the back?
No.
Well, that's the next step. We need to help you develop a habit where you do all of this great stuff and you allow yourself to recognize it.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't know if you remember, but at the end of last session, I said, next session, we're going to talk about dopamine, the lovely neurotransmitter.
Yes, we did, yeah.
And this is you've just given me the perfect introduction. Now, I wrote a mindset shift hack for this quite a while ago, and I found it this morning. And I will send it to you, but I'm just going to read it to you. So you can listen or take notes, do what you want, but know that I will send this to you, okay? And I based it on what I call the overwhelm scale to de-stress, okay? So this is what I wrote. When we realize that we create the almost constant state of overwhelm many of us live with, it's the breakthrough we need to make an empowering change. Adopting a more reality check mindset, especially around our emotional roadblocks, helps us cut through the stress of an inner bully's endless criticisms to remember that the quickest way to reduce overwhelm is to access these 3 pieces of wisdom. 1, overwhelm's not all negative, it can be positive too. 2, it's never too soon or too late to take back our right to decide how we want to respond to it for ourselves, instead of handing it over to an inner bully. And 3, our brain loves the small things that motivate us. The more we find, the more dopamine it releases. And as dopamine performs its tasks before we obtain rewards, its real job is to encourage us to act, either to achieve something good or to avoid something bad. Okay? So my dopamine scale releases, my overwhelm scale releases dopamine each time we step up to the next level. Okay, every step before 0 means you're using overwhelm to avoid your discomfort zone. This doesn't make sense unless you can see the scale. But what it is there's 5 steps where you, let me pull the scale up. So these are the 5 steps are -5, your overwhelm's got you believing the only option is to pull the plug on your goal, be it for the day or your life, and that's going to lead to more stress down the line. -4, you're getting a little bit better. So you've started to work out how to shelve this goal or project, but maybe you don't feel comfortable or happy about that action, okay? -3, getting even better, and inner bully's got you blaming yourself, your lack of the right skills or support, anything to detract you from choosing how to respond to this seeming setback, and you've noticed this. -2, your thoughts are swinging from it's impossible to I can dream it, so why can't I do it? -1 is you might be frustrated, but you're still admitting there must be another way. At 0 on the scale, you're recognizing 2 things. An inner bully has successfully undermined you, and only you have the right to choose how you want to respond to your difficulty. So now we're getting into the plus areas. So +1, while you can't see any opportunities in this situation yet, you know that you will. You also know you'll recognize them when they appear so that you can act on them. +2, some ideas are forming, but nothing's really clicked with you yet. There's not been a definite yes, I'm going to act on that one. So +3, you've had an idea that seems viable, and it came in what I call an aha moment, where it seems to come out of nowhere. It hasn't come out of nowhere at all, but it's just been all subconscious thinking and processing that you haven't been aware of. 4, since you had it, your brain's been full of ideas for how to make it work. 5, you've developed a great early warning system for when you create unnecessary work, unnecessary risks, or difficulties. Yay! So that's the overwhelm scale, and it's all based on the fact that if you recognize each of these stages, you're giving yourself and your dopamine exactly what it needs to help you even more, because dopamine is a feel-good chemical. It used to be called the bonding chemical, because when we first started studying dopamine, it was the hormone that produced bonding between a mother and her infant. But it's also used to motivate us in this way. So that is the quickest of quick run-throughs of dopamine. the big takeaway for you is that line where I say it's the quickest. No, its real job is to encourage us to act, either to achieve something good or to avoid something bad. So this week, in everything that you've told me, you've subconsciously been using dopamine to encourage you to achieve something good and also to avoid something bad. The more you're aware of this, the more use you can make of it, and the more powerfully it responds. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the very short story of Princess Dopamine.
Right.
So let's come back to you again. Oh, there you are. Okay, so I was reading my hack that I wrote. So,
What's a hack?
well, a hack is a very short. If you've got a difficult subject and you want it simplified, people like me will write hacks, which means they'll just give you the basic information you need so that you can start making progress and understand what to do.
Right.
So often they're called life hacks, but I call them mindset hacks.
Right.
Okay. It's something that's often used in the personal development sector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so remember, for you, its real job is to encourage you to act, either to achieve something good or to avoid something bad.
Yeah.
And it does that by you giving yourself quick wins. But that point there means you do need to recognize that you've done something good, because it's your recognition that allows the dopamine to really work to its most powerful effect. Because even if it's just like I do, well done, Susie, well done me, I did that, yay. That's my typical response.
Right.
Another will be, okay, it's time for me to take a break now, and I've just done that, so I've really earned the break. So I'm going to have a nicer break than usual. Maybe I'm going to have a chocolate biscuit with my coffee, or whatever.
Right.
Or I'm going to do some stretching because my back needs it and I love it, and I'll feel a lot better. So I'm very aware of dopamine and what it needs from me, and I make sure I give it to it, because it then seems to redouble its power. And I think that's simply because I'm more aware of it.
Right.
It leads to an extra appreciation. Mm-hmm. So the moral of the story is use Princess Dopamine.
Yes.
So let's have a look at where you might have already used Princess Dopamine last week. I know you said that you didn't give yourself a pat on the back, but one thing I've learned with you, and I hope you recognize it too, is that you often say no to things, and then when I share my experiences, you say, well, actually, and we come away with a lot of things you've actually done without realizing it. So let's see if we can find things that you've already done to support your dopamine's encouragement without realizing it initially. You're just so used to doing it that, it's normal to you. It's no big deal. But in terms of dopamine, it is a big deal.
Well, actually then, I would say going to the vets.
Okay.
Going to see Peter Rudd, and not telling Sarah Stevenson that, things have changed at Trafford Housing Trust and I'm a big liar.
And also there's the other one of remembering to give a follow-up to the headhunter that said I can do something with you. That was another one.
That was okay. That was the same one that I said, don't tell her that you're a liar.
Okay. All right. Okay. Oh dear. That's not lying.
No, I know. But you never want to be in a situation where you're criticising what's happened before. And actually, when I reflect on Trafford Housing Trust and having heard what's happened, what was I going to say? To me, my first reaction was, well, that means they've put this to one side completely, all the work that I did.
And how does that leave you feeling?
Well, I felt angry.
Good.
And then I thought, well, but that's actually typical of Matthew if he doesn't exactly get what he wants. But then I thought, well, hang on a minute, it might not be. You jump into conclusions here, and it was always on the cards that Roger wasn't the man to take the business forward. So all they've done is Mike Caulfield was seen by Angela as being a bit wishy-washy, like Roger was for me, and she was going to move him on. So that's what they've done.
But that doesn't, and that's good as far as it goes. But that doesn't answer the feeling of your being angry that you feel that they've just got rid of all of the good that you did, or the work that you did.
No.
So, because here, the difficulty, isn't it, is to recognize that anger, but not express it, to find a way to think about the situation where you can be completely honest. You can say, well, it was a disappointment that, because I feel that they got rid of, they what's the expression in English? They let out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah, throw out the baby with the bathwater.
That's it. Okay. Because I think it's perfectly appropriate and actually required to be honest, but to be, what's the word? Positive with that honesty, and say, I don't actually agree with it, but of course it's their decision.
Yeah.
So how could you do that with your anger about feeling that they've thrown out the baby with the bathwater? Well,
simply by expressing it like you just said, I'm disappointed that, but it's their decision. So it's moving myself from being involved to standing on the sidelines. So in the same way that I had to come to terms with the fact that arthritis research, that despite a very healthy, solid financial and all sorts of good reasons why they should continue in retail, they decided they didn't want to do it.
I want to look at your expression, standing on the sidelines. Can you unpick that for me so I understand what that means for you?
Where did I use that?
You said instead of being involved in Trafford Housing Trust, I'm standing on the sidelines.
So what I'm trying to say with that is not be so intimately involved, like standing in the middle of it, but actually standing to one side and looking at it as a project.
I like standing to one side. Standing on the sidelines, for me, felt that you were waiting to be called back into the game.
No, it's just looking at it a different way and not being so emotionally involved and tied up. And that was a big thing with arthritis research. It took me quite a while to do that.
It did, yeah. Just be aware that, and I know that you know this, but different expressions mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
The standing on the sidelines may not be communicated in the way, received in the way you communicated it.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a game metaphor, isn't it? It's more of a sports metaphor.
Yeah. And also, the other difficulty is I know what's happened, but I don't know it officially. I know it unofficially.
But that's quite normal for a consultant, isn't it? I mean, we get to hear things afterwards because we meet people in the street. So it's quite normal.
So it's me just putting things into perspective, really.
And not worrying too much.
Yeah.
Because the headhunter, any headhunter worth their salt, will expect you as a consultant with all of your experience to disagree, to have ideas of your own, to say, well, I don't agree with it. So none of that is at issue. What is at issue is how you term or how you communicate your experience. And half of it you've got, half of it you work through beautifully with, they've just done, it was always on the cards and they've just done it now. So well done them. It's the other half where you're more involved that still leaves a trace of a chemtrail, if you like aeroplanes in the sky.
But that's addressed with, I'm disappointed, but ultimately it's their decision.
Yeah. If that's how you want to put it, and if that's all you want to say, yes. Is the sun getting in your eyes?
It's going on my head, but it's not getting my eyes, no.
Oh, okay, all right, because I thought I saw you squinting. All right. Yeah, okay. If that's
that was just a grimace.
Do you not have a blind to pull down over it?
Yes, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
And I've never sorted it out ever since I moved in. I mean, it must have worked somehow, because the little boy used to sleep up here, so he must have had the blind pulled. But it's one of the things that I need to get sorted.
Yeah.
I will get sorted when I get some money coming in. But I don't want to spend money right now.
No, quite.
And I've been, actually, over the last couple of days, I've worked downstairs because it's way too hot up here. Ambrose, the cat, loves it, but it's ridiculously hot. And when your hands get greasy, you can't use the keyboard properly. So I've been downstairs because the dining room's got the original stone floor, so it's really cool.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Okay, good. All right, so so is there anything that you would like to focus on today? I'm laughing now. Is there anything that's come up in the week? Or is about to come up?
Not specifically, no. I think that we talked about the main things that kind of set me off this week. And how I handled that. I did have a conversation with Jane, because she's not been great this week.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, me trying to find out how she was and what was going on, because she just hasn't been with it. And she ended up in floods of tears because she's convinced that something's going to happen.
Like something bad?
Yeah, she thinks she's going to get stabbed or something. And then we talked about the fact that she feels very sad about Ambrose. He's getting old, and I said, well, it's a fact, isn't it? He's getting old. So she wasn't very. She's not been on very good form this week, and Jonathan's been a bit off it as well. So yeah, that's the only other big thing I can think of.
And how did you cope with that?
What, with Jane? Well, I tried to ask questions or suggest things that might help. So one of the things I was trying to say was, well, if the baseline is you always feel a little bit anxious, which she does. But now you're saying that you feel hyper anxious. Don't you need to do something about why you're feeling hyper anxious to try to unpick it and deflate it and deal with it? And I said, isn't that why don't you ring Dr. Hartley, or why don't you talk to the GP? And isn't there something in there that you need to be doing to help yourself to feel better? She said, oh, well, I always feel anxious. I said, yes, but the difference is that now you've got this anxious state, which is your baseline, but you're actually feeling even more anxious at the moment, and that's affecting you and everything that you're doing. And it's that, surely there's something in there that you need to unpick and deflate. So we had that conversation, and we were talking about, so then it got onto general things. She said, oh, I don't really want to have this conversation right now, because I was talking about you need to help yourself, you need to do something with a therapist, get into a program which helps you to understand what you're doing and helps you to not control it, but feel as good as you can about yourself. So, but then I just left it.
Okay, good try. I don't know what words you used with Jane, but I had a lot of need. You need to. And that's just gonna, she will block at that because she can't cope with need. Need is too compelling, too draining.
I don't think I used need like I've just used it to you. I think I said I tried to ask questions like, shouldn't you think about this, or
but shouldn't you? No. How about? Have you thought of?
Yeah.
Get rid of all of those verbs of obligation, because she's hypersensitive. And it comes with an implied criticism. You might not mean it like that, but everybody hears a shouldn't you.
No, that's fair enough. I didn't
We don't realise until we're faced with someone who's in a terrible state. And they are great trainings for us because they help us understand how much damage we do to ourselves as well with this sort of language. The older I get, the more I do this work, I think all the verbs of obligation should be banned. I really do, because they create so much damage, because they immediately set up stress in our body.
Yeah.
And we do it so often that we don't even hear it when we say it, because it's become our shorthand.
Yeah.
So that's why my number one most damaging mindset is I should. Because it robs us of all power to choose. Because it's not I feel that I should, it's someone else's should that we feel we need to do to keep them happy. So it's unbelievably damaging.
So the one other thing that I talked about was I did talk about her choice, and I did talk about compassion.
Brilliant.
I did talk about being kind to herself. So I thought that was quite positive, actually.
That was very positive, and it was more than positive. It was perfect. They're exactly the words she needs to hear. So well done, you.
Yeah.
I'll share something with you that I went through when I was 22 and my mama was dying, and I never ever spoke about myself, never. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't see the look of disbelief or pain on other people's faces. It was guaranteed to get me falling apart. So I never spoke. And I was living in London and going to see my mother every day at Hackney Hospital. And because I'd spent the last 12 years being really angry with her, and I'd gone into the hospital ward, and my immediate response was, my God, she looks like someone from Biafra. How can anyone be so ill and still be alive? So I had these two very opposing thoughts in my head, and I literally thought that I was going to become schizophrenic, because I couldn't make peace with between the two. There was too big a gap, and I was in a real state. I didn't know how bad I was, but my foster aunt did. And they got very worried. So they went to the doctor without telling me, and they said to him, the family doctor who'd seen me when I first came to live with them. So he had a lot of my history with them. He'd seen the state that I'd arrived in, and seen the difficulties that they'd had with me. So they went to see him. And they wanted a sounding board, and he said, bring her to me. She's got to come and talk to someone. So they knew that I was going home to Sussex for a few days. So they said to the doctor, she's going to be home in those days. So he said, okay, make an appointment. This is the appointment. and don't tell her anything. Just tell her in the morning when she gets up and saying, go have breakfast and then go to see Dr. Spargo. So that's what they did. And I was absolutely furious with them. Because I thought it was my right. And I told them, I said, how dare you? But actually, when I got to the doctor, he just said, what's been going on? And that was it. That was exactly the question that I needed for me to say, I'm going out of my mind. I don't know what to do. And then at the end of our session, he said, okay, you're going through an appallingly difficult time. And you need to be very kind to yourself. Don't worry about talking to the aunts. I'll tell them. I'll share. Are you okay with it if I share with them what I think they need to know so that they can help you? And I said yes. So I don't remember what happened after that, but I got into, they came to pick me up. I said, Dr. Spargo will ring you. I'm not saying anything. But it did get a little bit better because I'd said I'm going out of my mind and I'm worried that I will become schizophrenic. And I didn't know enough about schizophrenia then to know that I was out of the at-risk phase.
Right.
And so it was highly unlikely. And also it's not the pathology that you get from that level of stress. So I'm just wondering if, I'm telling you this, because I'm wondering if it's time for you to take that sort of action, to do an intervention with her and say, I've called the doctor.
Well, it's curious because I think I mentioned me Julie to you before, the friend of Jonathan's.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that she suggested. But she suggested I made an appointment first and went and had a chat.
Yeah.
And then made an appointment for Jane. Either with or without me. Yeah.
And how do you feel? Do you feel that it might be time? Because it did help me. I don't remember the details of what happened afterwards, but just to have someone to say you're going through an appallingly difficult time. And I can't imagine how you must be feeling, but you know, you need the people around you who know you you need to let them help you. That was a breaking point. That was turning point.
Yeah, I think, yes, I think I am there. I think that's what it was about when I was talking to me Julie a couple of weeks ago, and then I had a conversation with Jane, and I thought it got a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But we're back.
Yeah.
We're back where we started, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it only gets easier if she can find a way to talk regularly. She might not want to. I remember after the heart attack and I was sent to the Maudsley because, you know, I had that chemical-induced suicide attempts. So it was policy to send me to psychotherapy. And fortunately for me, I got sent to the Maudsley. And there were some sessions when I couldn't talk. I was just sitting curled up in a fetus. I could not say a word, but that was it. It was just, and when I said I don't know if she was a psychologist or a psychotherapist, you know, it was real mask therapy. I'm not here. I don't want to influence you in any way. And I asked her once, you know, I'm really sorry about this, but there are times when I just can't talk. And she said, it's okay. The fact that you come here every week shows how committed you are. So if that's all you can manage, that's all you can manage.
Yeah.
So it's the habit of this that creates the commitment and that allows you gradually to say things. And that lets you build up the trust in another person, because until then I knew that I really didn't trust anybody.
Right.
So I didn't like her. She made me very angry. I was infuriated with her at times, but she was my safe space, and I knew I could say whatever I needed to say. And that was part of the healing process, and it's an enormously helpful part of the healing process. You don't realize it till after you've come out of it.
Mm.
And she's getting worse, I believe, and I keep saying this, but I'll repeat it. I'm by no means an expert in depression, because she's not got that habit.
I agree.
So I would suggest the priority for you is to do some form of intervention that gets her into that habit again, whether she wants it or not, because I was furious with my foster aunts. Absolutely furious. How dare you?
Yeah.
It's my right to decide.
I think that's probably why I haven't done anything.
Yeah, because you be prepared to face that anger.
Because
I was out of my head with rage, because I was carrying so much anger in me against her towards my mother, but I couldn't express it because all I felt was, how is it possible for one person to be so ill? So I went in the space of a second of being really angry towards her and afraid of her, terrified of her, because she to me had fucked up my childhood and not given me a childhood at all, and it was all her fault. My father, at least he'd let me alone. Afterwards I realized it wasn't true, but at that point that was how I felt, and I went into the ward and I saw the state of her, and I just all of that anger seemed to melt away, but it doesn't melt away. It's still there, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And you don't know why you're angry then. I was fortunate because I'd gone through 3 years of psychology at uni, but Jane may not know why she's so angry. And it makes it worse. It can make it a lot worse. So be prepared for some real hit and spiss anger. Hiss and spit. I'll get the word right.
Okay.
I take it that Julie is her name is really Julie.
Yes.
But she's just for you guys, Julie.
Yes.
Okay.
And she's actually Jonathan's friend, really.
Yeah.
But she's a really good egg.
And a really precious resource.
Yeah. I was half wondering whether or not she might be a useful person to talk to.
I was wondering that too.
Yeah. Because she's offered to come round.
Well, do you think it would do Jane any harm just to have tea together with her?
No.
Well then, worth a try. Because you're her sister, you're too close to her. She's going to trust other people because they don't know her. It's that familial bond that sometimes works against us. You know, you don't listen to your husband telling you things, but you do listen to an outsider.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, and she can come just as Jonathan's friend. She doesn't have to come as a professional.
No, exactly.
She can say it once she feels that Jane is beginning to talk to her. Then she can say, well, actually, have you thought of this? I could help you because, you know, I'm this. So it can be played in all sorts of ways. But if she's getting worse, that's a sign for action. After my father died and things were really toxic with my half-brother Ray, I kept having nightmares and daymares that he was going to leave Australia, fly to Italy, come and find me with a shotgun and kill me and Pedro, but he'd kill Pedro, my dog, first.
Really?
Yeah, I stayed in the house. For months I didn't go out. I was absolutely terrified. And I could work through it. I did work myself through it, but I didn't take away that appalling terror. And I kept telling myself, this is just a nightmare. It's not going to happen. He's not going to do that. You're just transferring the terror of your father onto him because he's showing the same pathology as your dad. So I could work all the way through it with my rational brain, thanks to my training, but it didn't stop the nightmares. It just meant that they were shorter because I could work my way through them. So you need to you want to get out of that phase as quickly as possible, or have help to be able to come out of it, not to stop it, but to come out of it, because you're just building that muscle of saying no to it till eventually it gets to the point where it understands she's not falling for this. Okay, we don't need it anymore. She's not afraid of this anymore. She knows it's not going to happen.
So would I just tell her that Julie's coming around for a cup of tea?
Has she heard you speak about Julie?
Yes. Yeah. Not in any kind of professional sense.
Okay, so she knows the name.
Yeah.
And you do sometimes have other people round to tea, don't you?
Yes.
And would it help if Jonathan came round too? And Jonathan and Julie could, okay, all right, fine.
Would I be there?
You need to be there, I think, at least to begin with, because you're her anchor. She knows you. So is there something that you could tell her? Julie and I went out with the dogs and we've come back.
Yeah, I can do that.
Stopping for tea.
Yeah.
So give her something that won't alarm her.
Yeah.
Okay. An everyday reason.
Okay.
To make it very low key, very relaxed. You're very relaxed. It's no big deal. She's just coming to have tea with us and then she'll go home.
Okay. Okay.
And then you can have a three-way, or you and Julie can start talking so Jane can observe and start to feel comfortable with this third person in the house. And then if you see them starting to talk, you can say, would you like me to leave or would you like me to stay? You really have to play it by ear, and you have to tune into Jane's nervousness. So she'll have like I was talking about the overwhelm scale, she'll have a nervousness scale.
Yeah.
You just check in with her and see how she feels. And you don't even have to ask her a question. You'll just pick that up from her general energy, from her body language, from what her eyes are doing. Is she looking at Julie when she speaks to her? Is she avoiding her? Is she not speaking to her at all? Is she closing herself off?
Okay.
Julie will be an expert at this, but you're Jane's anchor. Talk to Julie about how to play it as well.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
But that might be that would be a more low key, a more approachable next step than saying, let's make an appointment for the doctor or with the psychologist for you, or psychotherapist or counsellor, whatever professional figure you're using. It's smaller. And then you can see with Julie, her professional opinion, you and she can talk about it and see what the best next step might be. Okay. Yeah. Because I think if you've got that resource, it's a good idea to use it, because then if you book an appointment for Jane at the psychotherapist's office, and she doesn't get on with this person, then you have to start from scratch again. Whereas with Julie there as a friend, as a dog walking friend or whatever, it's more low key, and you might have a better chance of understanding what the next best step is. Right. So that you can speed it up a bit. Okay. All right. Right. Yep. Good. So what's coming up for you next week?
Flip over the diary. St. Gemma's. St. Gemma's.
So why are you doing so much work for St. Gemma's at the moment? What's happening? Is there a big project being launched?
No, on Monday we've got the finance committee meeting before the board, and on Friday we're celebrating our 40th year this year.
Okay.
There's an event for volunteers at the museum in Leeds, the Art Museum in Leeds.
Nice place, imagine.
So what they did was they took 40 photographs of 40 different people, all talking about what they're doing for their big 40. So you've got a 5-year-old talking about how he wants to be on the radio and stuff like that. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Nice.
So on Friday, it's the launch for the 40 faces, and a press launch. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's good.
You're shrugging it off as though it's no big deal, but that's a nice event.
It is a nice event. Yeah.
Okay. So any high points, any things you're going to do for yourself, like having Emily and is it Jason?
Stuart.
I am hopeless with names. Emily and Stuart round for lunch?
No, they're on holiday at the moment. No.
Okay.
No, it's just those two things, and I've got plenty of other work to be getting on with. So
good. All right. And what's your big takeaway from today, or little takeaway? What's given you a sort of aha moment?
That whole thing about using dopamine or being encouraged to act and to either to achieve or to avoid.
Yeah.
And recognizing when I have done something good.
Yeah.
Being aware of that.
Yeah, because when you notice that, you also start to notice that because you're doing it more, you're getting more. So you're telling your brain, I want more of this, because you're reinforcing the behavior.
Yeah.
Good. That's an excellent takeaway to have. Okay, I just want to thank you for taking a look at my elevator pitch and that stuff, because it's really helpful, because I had 20 rewrites in it. I counted them. So at the end, you can't see anything. You can't evaluate them. But I've noticed that I posted it and I've had more people look at my profile. And I'm also arranging a round table with other my coaching peers, a round table on, how we work with the inner bullies and what we do. So, and that seems to be going down fairly well. So that's nice. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, so do you have to tell Brenda about Bodhi's fleas or no?
I don't need to tell her about the fleas, no.
What level of disclosure you have?
I think that's where he got the flea from. I think Carla had a flea.
Yeah, very possibly.
She was scratching, and I'd noticed it, and then he starts. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, never mind.
Well, and what about Becky? No?
She can deal with Becky.
So have you had conversations with Brenda about whether Becky is coming back to you or not?
No, I haven't, no.
So that's still in the pipeline?
I haven't thought that through yet. I've tried to put that to one side, and the dog walking business and all of that to one side, until I get my application in this week and have done the things I need to do this week.
Yeah, very good idea. Perfect. And that also gives more time for your brain to think things through without your conscious awareness. So that's always a good thing. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. So same time next week?
Absolutely.
Hey.
Are you doing anything nice this weekend?
Well, Taya and Leo came down the day before yesterday, and Giuseppe came.
Right.
I haven't seen him for months, and I was starting to get a bit worried about him, but he's getting better. So that's good. So it was a really flying visit. They came at 4 and went at about 8:30. So it was really short. So the next time they come down, we'll have a long day. But I've got the opportunity to have more work teaching English, unfortunately, but it's still going to help me pay the bills, so I don't care. That one of Giuseppe's contacts gave, which is wonderful, because I had someone phone me up a couple of days ago to say, you taught an English course to young footballers in Italy when they came out to do some training with Italian football trainers.
Yeah.
And they really liked you. They really thought you were great. And I'm organising another one. Can you do it? And I said, no, not anymore, because I'm in Verona. So to go and do it at that same club, I would have to do a 200-kilometre round journey. So you would have to pay the expenses, which I knew he wouldn't want to pay. So I thought, bloody hell, first concrete offer of work, and I can't do it because I'm too far away and they won't pay the expenses. So it was great to have Giuseppe say, I've been speaking to the director of this school, of this group of schools, and they're looking for an English teacher. And first of all, I thought, I don't want to teach English. And then I thought, I have debts to pay. So, and I said to him I said, fantastic, I'll do it. I said, I'm a bit fussy about my clients, because they have to be really motivated, because otherwise I can't teach them and I can't do a good job and they don't learn anything. And he said, Susie, they're very motivated. I teach them. You know, I do consultancy work for the same set of schools. So
good.
I thought, okay, well, I've got nothing to lose. Why not? So it gets me known. So, so, and the rest is a waiting game, waiting until the middle of July, when our big, it's like the baccalaureate in France, the big year exam is over, to speak to the president of the technical association schools.
Right. Okay.
But Giuseppe said she wants to go ahead. So I've now got her personal mobile phone number, which is a huge step forward, because the difficulty for me has always been that she's spoken to Giuseppe and Giuseppe's spoken to her. I have never been involved in the conversations, but it's about the work I'm doing. So it's been very frustrating. And I did say to Giuseppe, you know, I need to be involved in these discussions. I'm not telepathic. You don't tell me everything that's going on. So, so he obviously heard. I told it to him on a day when he had an appalling headache. So I had to say very gently, you know, sweetie, don't you think it would be better if I were involved in these conversations too? So, but so now I've got her mobile phone, so that's good. So,
no, it's good.
So things are firming up, but still not where they need to be to keep me feeling okay. I've got enough work for the autumn.
Right.
Because it's, you know, there are always so many steps in between, because it's got now I've got to wait and fill the matriculation, which is the English version of what they do here, the exam. When that's all over and all the teachers have had some breathing space and the students have left school and they're just closing things off for the end of the year before they go on holiday too, the teachers. So I've got to wait for that, but then I can have a conversation. But now I know that it's a yes, the course can go ahead, but I don't know in what form. And then I've got to have a yes, it's definitely going ahead in this form. And yes, it's going to start at the beginning of the school year. And then, yes, you're going to get paid, but 3 months after you've completed the course. So it's all, you know, wait, and another wait on top of the first wait. So there's still lots of steps to complete before I actually get to receiving any money. But one step closer is one step closer. So.
And is your landlord on board?
My landlord, I pay my rent late every single month. He knows I'm in difficulty, but at the first month I went to him and said, I wanted you to know face to face. I thought it was the correct thing to do. And he said, you did very well. And thank you for doing that. So yeah, he knows. And he's actually been very helpful because he knows about the school. He doesn't know about the second one because that's just come on board. And he doesn't know about the counselling school because I haven't mentioned that to him. He knew about the big project that I moved house, you know, I moved to do. So he knows about that. And he said to me, you need to know that there are 2 ways for you to be paid, but they're very different ways to be paid and they'll really affect when and how you get paid. So you need to ask the question. So he's been very helpful. And I may choose him as my accountant here. We'll see. But I wasn't quite sure about him because when you write to him, he writes very terse, short replies. But I've realized it's just the Veneto way, that this is what he does. But in the last month, I've had to tell him that the garage door is broken. It's 40 years old and it doesn't work anymore. So that's a big expense that he's got to shell out for. and the front door lock to the apartment doesn't work anymore because that's 40 years old. So when I went back to him the other day to take the money for June's rent, it's due on the 5th, but I paid it on a few days after you'd sent it to me, for which thank you. I said, I'm really, really sorry, but I've got some more bad news for you. And I said, I don't think it's going to be a big expense like the garage door, but the front door doesn't close. I can't open it, it locks. And I've had my downstairs neighbour, who's very practical, check it, and I've had the young couple who live opposite me check it too. And it's not me that I can't open the door because I'm not strong enough. It's actually that there's something very definitely wrong with the lock. So he said, let's go and talk to my tuttofare, which means my handyman, who was a couple of doors away. And so we went to talk to him together. And then we brought him back to the apartment, and he checked all the keys that is the major key that unlocks the door. And he checked the lock and he said, yeah, you're quite right. It's gone. We have to replace it. And so Cengirotti, my landlord, said, okay, all right. So what are the options here? So the locksmith said, well, you've got this lock, which is a replacement of this that's not really very secure these days. Or you've got this lock, which is going to cost more, but it is much more secure. And I said, well, I'll leave that to you. That's your decision to make. And then the locksmith sent me an email, an SMS to say, the owner has decided on the more secure lock, which is going to cost him more money. I don't know how much more. So I thought, well, he must trust me. I noticed that while we were in the apartment waiting for the locksmith to check everything out, the owner looked around at everything and sort of started making jokes with me. So I thought, okay, well, he trusts me. He's seen the apartment. He knows it's nice. So maybe he thinks, we have this expression that it literally translated, it's very ladylike. So we say it's molto signorile. It means you have a certain level of culture. You have nice things. You're well educated. So he's obviously put two and two together. He's seen the apartment. He's seen how I've got it. So he thinks that I'm to be trusted. So
good.
So he's opted for the more expensive option. So that's being done on Saturday. So that'll be nice.
Good.
And I have to wait 30 or 40 days for the new garage door to be installed.
Right.
But no, for me, it's work as usual. I've had 2 days off this week. But one of them, half the day was spent cleaning the flat because I didn't want the guys to come in and see the state it was in. So my back's been playing up. But today I'm working again, so that's good. So it's work as usual because it has to be work as usual at the moment. But I have regular conversation calls with people. You know, I go and see people that I know now in the small town. So I do take little breaks. Lena's going off for 2 weeks holiday on Sunday morning, so I'll miss her. My other downstairs neighbour, who's got the autistic spectrum son, had a furious screaming match with the woman who lives below her the other day. So when I next have a chat with Manuela, who has the autistic spectrum son, I'm going to say, I can mediate for you if you think it would help. Because I think Manuela did try to keep her calm, but the other woman just spoke over her. She didn't listen to her. There were some nasty things said, and then I shut the door. But I think I may offer my services to see if I can help them, because it's really not a nice thing for anybody.
No. And
I can imagine how frustrated the neighbour is, because Manuela, when she's unbelievably patient with Joe, the son, because he just doesn't get things, and he does things that are dangerous at times. But he's very high on the scale of autistic functioning. So he's getting better, and he does go to school every day and go to specialist school. And she is amazingly patient with him, because she's at home all day, every day. Her role is to look after him. So her husband is always out taking all of the overtime he can get. He is brilliant with him. So I did say to her the other day, before they had this furious row, screaming match, I take my hat off to you. I think you are amazingly patient with him. I don't know how you do it. So I think I might say, I know that when she screams, the whole of everyone in the condominium can hear her, because she gets very high pitched. So I can only imagine how awful that is to live beneath it at times.
Yeah.
But there's something going on with the other woman, because when I introduced myself to her and put my hand out to shake her hand, she looked at me with quite a lot of distrust.
Right.
So I think it's difficulties making the apparent difficulty with Joe much worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to suggest to Manuela, if she feels it would help, that when they're both calm, we come together in neutral ground, so maybe my apartment, and we do some listening work with them both to help them.
Right.
Because it's not nice living like that. It's not nice for anyone.
No.
And I've done a lot of it with warring couples. So we'll see if it works for them. If they want it, of course. If they don't feel it will work, then it's not appropriate to push. But if I can help in any way, I will. So we'll see. I need to time that right. But we'll see.
Right.
So that's it for today. I'm going to leave you. So a good long walk with Bodhi this weekend?
Definitely on Sunday, and today actually at some stage. I think I'm going to do the application first and then take Bodhi out. So.
Yeah. So can you get it done today, or will this be the first draft of the application?
No. I've already done the first draft. It's just the amendments and doing it.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, have fun with it.
Thank you.
And see you next week.
You will. Okay.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.